welcome to Brain Balance Live. I'm Jen. I'm a fellow Brain Balance mom, running around, just losing it most of the time. That way anyway. And Heather she's just the best. She gives us tools each day to just try to help make our journey as parents and really for ourselves to be a little bit easier. Heather is a board-certified cognitive specialist. She's a therapist. She has been the National Autism Summit speaker, and these programs have been touted by some of the biggest members of the scientific community as well. So, Heather, how are you doing today?
Well, we have to tell everyone that right before we went live, we were both shoving down. Mine was a protein bar. Was yours?
Oh, no. Mine was a sandwich that I chose to put barbecue sauce on, actually. And it was all over my hands, and I was like, I swear I'll have this done by the time this thing comes on. But yeah, we're just on the go, man. I feel like life is so busy, and we've been, life has been so different the last 2 years, and now things seem to be on their way to getting a lot better. Yeah, fingers very, very crossed. So we're eating and running. How great is that?
Right. I love it. No, I love protein bars. Like I eat those when I sort of say when I do have plenty of time to eat. That's my life, but I enjoy them very much. And so y'all forgive us if we have crumbs on our face right now.
I know. I had to check my teeth. Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about something that I think is probably something everyone can relate to, and that's how to get your spouse on board with any new style or technique or parenting tool that you're trying to use. How do you get your spouse on board if they haven't done I don't know, what angle are you going to take with this, Heather? Because I guess there's a lot of reasons why you might not be on the same page.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the things, there are different parenting styles, but I hear all the time, I know something's wrong and we need to help our child. And my spouse says, I had the same thing growing up and I turned out fine, or we just need to discipline him more. A big source of contention often is how to handle discipline, but there can be many different things. We're going to talk about how to parent as a team and what gets in the way and how to make things better. When parents are at odds on the parenting of their children, it has a lot of ramifications beyond what's obvious, So I think we can go ahead and move on into the first slide. So sometimes things that we do that do not present a united front aren't intentional. Sometimes you might it's been like this, and then and there might be things that have just sort of spun a bit out of control, but sometimes they are well-intentioned things that we don't stop to think about. There are a lot of ways we can unintentionally throw, or whether it's your spouse, a co-parent, another caregiver, under the bus. And so I gave an example of this. This guy comes home past his curfew, and mom says, wait till your dad gets home. We do not want to have the good cop, bad cop. And that's sort of what that conveys. And look what he's thinking. Dad is the bad cop. Mom's the loving one. She can't handle this. I'm going to work that to my advantage. And usually what happens, sadly, is that when parents are at odds and they don't present a united front, there becomes a parent-child team against the other one, even though that is usually not what the intent is. Sometimes it is. I'm talking about healthy environments and everything. It's not intentional. So other examples, I think that's a good idea. Let me check with your dad. I think that one on the surface, if you don't think about it, could sound very innocuous.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. But I said I'm going to check with dad. So I'm getting his input too. Yeah. But now if it's a no, then the child knows, or the teen knows where that came from. Your mom is going to be very upset about this. There's no way she'll go for that. Or how your dad is, or anything like that, where they're not on the same page, and that can start some strategizing in a really unhealthy way. So,
and it feels too like it's even can be tied to our own baggage with our spouse,
Sure. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to talk through a lot of things that get in the way and how to get to the root of what's going on. But in these moments, demonstrate your ability to handle situations while the other parent is away. There's actually a parenting expert who shared a story of she was out of town and her husband made a decision about how to handle something, and she undid it, and she's handling it from afar. And she just really disagreed with what he did, and she's not there, so she just changes it, and you can imagine the fallout from that.
Yeah.
So usually whoever, unless there is something just humongous that happens, the parent who is caregiving in that moment or who's in the house with the teen at that moment, support whatever decision they make, even if it's not what you would have done. But then there are ways to, like, there are patterns of things that happen, and how are we going to approach this? But I really wanted to start out saying a lot of it's not on purpose.
For sure. I think most of us, yeah, especially if you're watching this, you're obviously trying to better yourself. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I like match the audience. Yeah. Anybody who's spending their time on here is definitely trying to do things the right way. So let's move on. So let's talk about some of the impacts first. Marital tension. In today's world, sometimes it doesn't seem that this is the way the priority thing goes, but the best thing we could do for our kids is to have a stable, supportive relationship with the spouse. I always talk about how self-care is childcare. Having a strong marital bond and prioritizing that relationship is what the kids need. And if you're at odds on this topic, it is going to start spilling over. How many times do you start having an argument and everything in the kitchen sink comes up? One thing leads to another, bleeds into another, and then it can start skewing. You can almost have these unconscious biases start skewing the way you perceive other things the spouse does in other realms. Kids learn hostility, and hostility is not just yelling. It's not just what we think of as overt fighting. It can be passive aggression, the silent treatment, dismissing comments, invalidating, put downs, subtle threats. You keep talking like that, you know.
Yeah.
And they also learn manipulation. They are going to strategize. They are going to team up with one of the parents. Usually, the kids are. May not even be. I mean, kids want what they want, and it's not like they're trying to cause marital tension. They are just trying to get what they want.
Yeah.
Don't let that happen. Increases anxiety. Here's the thing. An unstable home, a home that has a lot of tension, it increases anxiety. But a lot of times kids will internalize it. Just because your kids don't overtly act anxious doesn't mean they're not. And in fact, girls are more likely to internalize than boys, although according to a lot of research, but that can happen with either gender. But it doesn't mean that it's obvious on the surface, but there can be stuff brewing underneath, and that sets you up for a much higher chance of depression and actually anxiety disorder and many other mental health struggles. But if I am anxious, guess what's going to happen? The behavior is going to get worse. Number one, if the parents are focused on going at it with one another, the kids are off the hook. Now the attention is on how mad you are at the spouse. Meanwhile, the kid keeps doing the thing that y'all told him to stop doing. So they're off the hook. But also, once the emotional brain is in charge, that continues to heighten emotions and behaviors. Emotions precede behaviors. And when I am feeling anxious, I am going to be more impulsive. Even for kids who are not, or adults who are not you wouldn't describe yourself as impulsive. We are going to be more impulsive in those moments. We're going to make poorer decisions. Confusion. This is such a biggie. It's so important to keep center of mind that what are we trying to accomplish here? We are wanting to raise kids who understand right from wrong, who have flexible thinking, good social emotional skill. Think about what your values are, and is what we're doing furthering that cause, or is it confusing them? Are they getting confused about boundaries? If they don't understand the boundaries at home, then how are they going to establish and protect personal boundaries in relationships with others? Huge.
Yeah.
And huge. But what are the expectations here? I don't even get what the end game is here, because I heard this and I heard this. and what matters and what doesn't, what's relevant and irrelevant. If you have kids who get really bent out of shape about something that on a scale of 0 to 10, you would say it's a 2. They are not learning how to prioritize and how to know what values are and what things to let go and what things to okay, this is worth it. Let's dig in and take care of this. All right. They are going to learn how to talk to others. I mean, they're just going to learn so many of the things that are not the things we're trying to teach them. All right. Let's move on. It's like
piece by piece.
Now let's get into some strategies. These hopefully are easy. These are 2 non-parenting practices that result in better parenting. 1, prioritize kid-free quality time with your spouse. It is great if you can have date night, even if you're not going to go out and do something fancy schmancy. Time, just the 2 of you. These 2 are just sitting on the sofa, throw on some music, sway to the music in the house. If you're not, go for hikes, whatever it is you're into. You need time that is kid-free. And that can be at home. If you have little ones and nobody, we don't live around family, we just moved here, then make a date night at home. And that can be really intimate and special. And that also keeps you connected to the things that drew you together. So many times parents start losing sight of who they are as a couple. And it's more about parenting. We don't see eye to eye on this, so therefore we're at odds, period. When really, just like we say, stay in touch with who you are apart from the roles you fill, stay in touch with who you are as a couple and what drew you to that person and why you're all together and everything that you're grateful for in this person apart from parenting. During these date nights, that's not when we talk about parenting. There's plenty of time for that. I know y'all are busy, not plenty of time. You can fit in the time. This is about the couple. And then self-care is childcare. You need to do things that nurture your soul, whether it is hobbies, philanthropy, a bubble bath. I mean, what is going to rejuvenate you and bring you back to the family as a fuller, happier, peaceful version of yourself. You will be a better spouse. You will be a better parent, friend, professional when you take time for self-care. Kids need stable, loving parents, not perfect ones who agree on everything. They benefit from our differences, and we're going to talk more about that. Okay.
My husband's always been a lot better at prioritizing our relationship than I am. I want to take care of everybody else first, and that includes just taking care of the kids, and prioritizing the relationship is harder for me. This is a really good note.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Okay. Connecting through communication. This isn't date night. Okay. Now we're moving on. Relationship. Now you need to talk about the parenting. It's 10 o'clock on Thursday night, and can't believe what Jason did. How are we going to handle this? Instead of withdrawal or avoidance, sometimes, the whole, everything I say nothing at all, and you pull back. Settling time is good. You want to make sure everyone's calm. We talk about that regularly on this show. That is different from the silent treatment or withholding love and affection from a spouse because you disagree with something they did. That is really manipulative. And there's a difference between I'm not in that space right now and I got to get calm. And I'd rather be away from him for a second because I don't trust what I might say right now or her. But you know what I'm talking about, where it's passive aggression or little snarky comments and go for the, pulling back.
He hasn't apologized yet, so I'm not talking to him.
Right. And by the way, demanding an apology is not a great idea. I know that's an instinct for a lot of people. I'm so glad you said this, because just same with our kids. What do you say? Say thank you. Say thank you. We are teaching niceties, and we want our kids to look good to other people. They already are good, but I'm saying I want to look like a good parent, and I'm teaching them manners. That's great. There's a place for that. That does not cultivate gratitude. Telling you're sorry. Okay, I'm not sorry, and you're telling me to say that. So now I'm learning to lie.
Yeah,
I don't understand this. And I did a whole show on that topic. So I'm just going to, for the sake of time, we don't want to demand apologies or demand thank yous. How do you think how did that make you feel? Do you think that person knows that? How could you let them know? And then they express gratitude. And talking through, how do you think that made your sister feel when you did this? And teach them relationship repair, but not forcing words out of their mouth, because that teaches them things we don't want. The words come, but it needs to come the right way and for the right reasons.
Right.
Assigning negative motives. He just did that to make me mad. Maybe if there is passive aggression going on, benefit of the doubt, and did he really? Listen. I've said this before when it comes to kids. The same applies with spouses. Listen until the other person feels understood. That takes longer than listening until you understand. And every once in a while, we might be surprised. We thought we understood, but by continuing to listen, I did pick up. There was a little something there that I was missing, and something clicks, and now I get why this matters. Okay? Don't listen until you understand. Listen until the other person feels understood. If you are not seeing eye to eye on something, say, okay, let's both share our point of view on this. I am going to be quiet and listen. I am not going to say a word. I really want to understand where you're coming from on this. And then, of course, when you sort of repeat, are you saying kind of active listening, repeating it back? And don't get mad because no, that's not what I'm saying. Well, you just said no. Right now, it's your turn to understand them. So if they said even if what you repeated in your mind means the same thing, they don't feel understood yet. Okay, so let them restate it, use different words to see if you got it right this time. But this goes both ways, and then they need to offer you the same opportunity. Invalidating or dismissing the other person's point of view. That's so dumb. That's obvious, but sometimes it can be just ignoring it. This needs to be a joint decision, and you just ignore it. Dismissing isn't just telling them that that's a stupid idea. And of course, if y'all have read Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, invalidating emotions, no. All emotions are valid. They all serve a purpose. We need to think about what are they trying to tell us. If we are the spouse or significant other of this person, when you say, what can I learn about how to better love this person by seeing how they responded to that? So the emotions are valid on both sides. Celebrate differences. Kids benefit. Your kids are benefiting from a broader parenting perspective because you don't see eye to eye. John Gottman, a major researcher in this area, said no parents are going to agree on 100% of things. Not going to happen. The good news is it's actually better if you have respectful communication. There is forgiveness. There is compromise. So many times, like one's more lenient, one is stricter. There are all these. There are temperaments that come into this. There are parenting styles. There's the way our parents raised us, and I want to emulate that, or I want to do the exact opposite. In which case, they still end up not parenting the way they want it usually. But recognize that it's a good thing that you don't see eye to eye, and there's something in the middle there that is the perfect mix for your kids. Personalizing comments. We talk about rejection sensitivity a lot. Honey, just a reminder to unload the dishwasher. And we have a party tonight, so I thought it was being helpful because they'd be so frustrated when they get home and I didn't run the dishes. What they might hear is, you're so irresponsible. That's rejection sensitivity, but we can do it on even without that, especially if we're already kind of under stress or haven't been getting along. So it's very important for us to remember that we are not mind readers. There's been a lot of research on how bad we are at reading people's minds. Who knew? So is there another way of thinking this? Remind yourself, I do not know why they said that. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know that they're looking down on me.
Oh my gosh, I'm the worst. I'm the worst at this because I'm so good at keeping everything in my head and knowing what has to be done that when someone tells me something that has to be done, I'm like, do you think I don't know this? I can do better.
There's 5 seconds of my life I'll never get back. Thanks.
Right. Like I didn't know that dishes need to be done. Like that I didn't know we were having a party tonight. Why are you telling me this? You're only telling me this because you think that I'm stupid. Do you think I'm stupid?
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much the series of events. We that usually, when we have those responses, now if you're in an abusive relationship and someone has treated you not as the worthy human being you are,
Yeah.
this is not that conversation. This is about well-meaning. Everyone's well-meaning in this scenario,
Yeah.
but this does not mean to excuse away abuse. I just have to take a little caveat to say that.
Of course.
But I know that's obvious, but at the same time, I need to say that.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. Cause like for me, it's just because I'm a perfectionist and I want to be perfect at everything.
Right.
And I don't need you to tell me anything.
Right. Yeah. Perfectionism
He's
is a
just
big
trying to
thing.
help. He's just trying to like, do what you said, like make sure we're prepared. And I'm just like, but I know everything. Why are you telling me?
Right. No, and I was going to say that perfectionism can play in here. And so be aware of that. And the other thing is, maybe if look for patterns. Are there certain things that I take a certain way? Do I just do it with my spouse? At work, do I do the same thing? What is that telling me about something I might not feel solid in? And what can I do to cultivate that? Is there a wound, a trauma, or it can be a temperament thing.
Yeah.
And then the next time it happens, you realize that the recipe for this communication is a multi-way street. And this isn't about blame. This is about understanding, and not just your spouse, but yourself.
Yeah.
That there are often going to be, sometimes, just as an example, if there was a rough relationship with your parent, and then a spouse says something that triggers there's something along the same vein on it, by really kind of reflecting on the stuff, journaling it, logging it, and looking for patterns, you start understanding yourself better and much more organically stop taking things so personally. We all are going to do this probably in a relationship this intimate from time to time, but at least you can catch it and doesn't have to escalate. And it might be more and more mild, then it starts happening less frequently, and then some of these things become non-factors. All right, let's move on. So here are some guideposts for unity. Start with this. Do I believe that my spouse, co-parent, fill in the blank, whoever it is, or wants the best for our kids? For the people watching this, I hope the answer is yes to that. Most of the time, that is going to be a yes. If you're, and so that is the basis upon which everything else is built. We have the same goal here. We both love our kids. We both want the best for them. We see differently how to get there, but together we can come up with a combination of the best strategy. It really does. If y'all are really, if there's been a lot of tension going on, or not, but especially think about things that you really admire and are grateful for about your spouse, separate from parenting, as well as what they bring to the table that is just so good. I love that my husband goes out in the backyard and plays chase with them. They're getting exercise. The kids giggle. They look forward to it. Is it helping with homework? Is it they reads really good bedtime stories with all the voices? I thought Corey with all his voices when he's reading. Yeah. But just think of those things. There's providing for the family, but think about things that are very specific and share those things. And then keep that in mind when you're not seeing eye to eye. But some things that kind of hopefully are kind of going through your head. Let's work toward the goal of the kids never knowing whose idea it was. We're a team. So I think that's a good idea. Let's ask your dad. If they bring something to you, if it's an obvious thing and you can answer it, go for it. We already both know we're on the same page on this. If it's hopefully your family knows what your non-negotiables are. That start there, start small. What are your agreements, and then build from there. But if these are big things about this is how we're going forward, these are our family values, and this is how we're going to approach raising kids who have these qualities and are healthy, thriving adults. But it's not, when I really want stuff, I can go to dad and mom's going to say no, or vice versa. How about this? If there are certain topics that you feel more strongly about and others that your co-parent spouse feels more strongly about, how about deferring to the one who really feels strongly about the issue? I think, my opinion is this, but man, you're passionate about this. It's still good to understand why, because that's going to translate into other things. But our goal is not to win battles. It's not to be right 100% of the time. It is to parent effectively, to train kids, to grow them into independent, joyful, productive human beings and adults, also ready to have healthy relationships, and to protect our relationship. One of your parenting goals needs to involve protecting your relationship, not just time together, but also make sure it's quality, but also the intimacy of it. And I don't just mean that physically. I mean just that connection. Let's come up with a nonverbal signal to use when we don't agree, so we can cool off and talk privately. Yeah, I've talked about funny code words or something that you can say to kids to give them a little signal so they're not embarrassed in front of their friends. But what's a nonverbal signal y'all can come up with where I already know where this is heading, and that way the kids don't see us arguing. You always want to talk about these things privately. We don't want to cause anxiety or an environment in which the kids try to pit us against each other. These are sort of mantras and thought processes that can help guide your action or inaction, sometimes inaction. Some of the things we want to do don't need to happen. Okay, let's move on. All right, so if you haven't noticed, it starts with talking, communicate. Ideally, these conversations happen maybe before marriage, certainly before you have kids. So often that does not happen. It's never too late.
I wish this had happened before we had kids.
Yeah, and so often it doesn't. But share your parenting philosophy and why that is your philosophy. How were you parented? What did you agree with? What did you disagree with? Keep in mind that most of the times, memory of how we were parented isn't necessarily 100% accurate, but whatever your perception of it is in the here and now is going to influence how you parent. Again, not just that I want to be just like that, but here are things that I did not like, and I'm going to do this differently. But talk about scenarios, or if you're out and about in public and you see a scenario happening with some misbehavior and then parents, and like, how would you handle that? Where the emotions are not escalated. So it's logical mind talking to logical mind, and that can sort of be a dress rehearsal. You can identify areas that you don't see eye to eye on and talk about those in advance, so that when the time comes and emotions aren't heightened, we already kind of have a game plan on this.
Yeah.
But it's really important to find common ground. You don't disagree on everything, most likely, right? What are some small things we can agree on that it's just not even a thing? That sort of gets the juices going on. If we start with everything we disagree on, but common ground, connection. And what are the non-negotiables? Related to family values, safety, start there and then spread out. But discover the root causes. For example, if you are married to someone with executive function challenges or ADHD, 98 to 99% of adolescents and adults with ADHD have rejection sensitivity dysphoria. If both of you know that and what it means, that has a lot to do with these responses. Does it have to do, maybe they heard so many negative comments growing up, and so I know how that made me feel. And so everything's fine. You never have to, there's no consequences for anything. Just have these conversations. Sometimes it's moral issues, but life history shapes how we view the world. Share those things, because when we know why a spouse feels so strongly about something, doesn't mean we have to agree, but it makes more sense. It broadens our perspective. I hadn't thought about it that way. And even if we mostly still think what we thought initially, maybe there's a slight little twist to it. It's different. I like that piece of it. But then come to the compromise. But write specific house rules. House rules are so phenomenal, not only because it creates clear boundaries and expectations, but also because it gives you a degree of separation when you are needing to redirect your kids. And what I mean by that is your kids do something that's against one of your house rules, and you say, the house rule says, blah, 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 whatever it is, whether it's about bedtime, grooming, curfew, respectful talk in the house, whatever it is, the house rule says. You're not the bad guy being the enforcer. We are all following this house rule. If it's things pertaining to values, parents usually have a different bedtime from kids, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And they see that we all respect the house rules, and they are going to buy in more, because I highly recommend having a family meeting, talking about the house rules and what consequences are if those are broken. And there's a difference between consequences and punishment. Okay? There's a difference between discipline and punishment, for that matter. Punishment makes somebody feel bad. Whether it is, I've done shows before about all the research on timeout and many different common, this isn't a discipline show, so I'll skip this. That consequences, the best types of consequences usually are in some realm related to the thing that happened.
Yeah.
So if there's a house rule that everyone picks up after themselves, puts their plate in the dishwasher, and that's not happening, and you're having trouble cooking dinner because the counters are a mess, they can cook dinner, or they can help pitch in for whatever you order as a family. That consequence is directly related to what they didn't do that they were supposed to do. Break a lamp, you're having a fit, saving up to help pay for it. Yeah, what is the end game? It is to teach them. And time again, punishment is not teaching, it's just making kids feel bad. And there are even possibilities that some of the very common types of discipline used are going to be added to the list of adverse childhood experiences that very much impact neurological development. But be open to the kids' ideas. When you sit down, it's not just to inform them of what the rules are. You have any? What do you think? Yeah. Well, you said curfew's at 10. Yeah, I'd really wish you'd make it 10:30 on school, because, and listen to the reasons, and give them a voice. Everyone in the house has a voice. Maybe they have do you have any ideas for house rules? And you kind of come up with one together. Get their buy-in. If they participate, it was also partially my idea, so it has to be good.
Yeah.
But then have each other's back, mom and dad. Don't disagree in front of the kids. Be consistent. If you say that such and such is going to be a consequence, both parties need to do it consistently, even if you are a single parent. This is the consequence. You cannot, if you do that one more time and you say that 10 times, your kids are actually losing trust. That is breaking trust, because you're not following through on what you say you're going to do. And if you do that with discipline, and they're not learning, because what they're learning is you don't really mean it. And I can also say things I don't mean.
Yeah.
And then you tell them something that really, really matters, and they don't know whether you really mean what you're saying. And that is not the intent. And if you have grandparents, babysitters, other people who routinely take care of your kids or spend time around them, let them know these house rules, let them know consequences, so that they carry through on them too. And they need to not throw y'all under the bus. And so support that. But be flexible, so parenting choices fit each child's development and needs. Well, I was raised this way and it turned out fine. Does your child have an identical temperament to you? Are they identical neurodevelopmentally? Do we possibly live in a different day and time where there are many other factors at play? On and on. There are so many factors that play in to what is best. And also being willing to change these over time. Maybe for one, you try something and it's not working, being able to switch gears. This is the consequence. We said that. That's not you being fickle. That is you being flexible. But they get older. They have different needs. There are just many things at play here. Think long term. What values and attributes do you want to instill? If you and your spouse can come up with 3 or 4 words that sort of sum up, this is what we hope to achieve in our parenting and how we want to prepare our kids as adults, and you keep that long range vision in play, the day-to-day and the smaller stuff kind of finds its place. You know what really matters. Compromise and give second chances. We don't have all the answers. Neither one of you most likely is 100% right or 100% wrong. What is best for your kids? Talk it out. It's not about being right. And forgiveness. We're all imperfect. Forgive ourselves. That includes yourself. Okay.
That's a hard one.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, we've come to the end of the slides. You guys, I don't know about you, but for me, that was like super relatable, super helpful. I am going to get screenshots of every single one of those and keep them and read over them with my partner. I suggest everybody do it. I think this is so brilliant. So if you enjoyed this and you have any questions, please, please, please write them there. And as you can see, these are all the ways that you can contact Heather and her staff to get the much needed help. Go in and get an assessment. You will not regret it. It really does work to help families be stronger in the end. Heather, do you have any other things to mention today?
I was going to say, go look for Jen's beautiful face on the pages if you want to sign up for our newsletter. There's a video on there with Jen, and I'm putting out a weekly newsletter with tons of very practical and implementable tips that will help the family, help your child or teen develop, social, emotional, behavioral, academic, all kinds of topics in there. And it goes out every Saturday. So just click the little sign up button there and you'll enter your email and you'll be on the list. And Dr. Brian and I will be back Thursday at 1:00. When I got off the show the other day, I couldn't believe how many shares there already were. We talked about the updated CDC developmental guidelines and the fact that they're not based on science and why it matters. And we're breaking that down a little more this Thursday.
Okay. All right, cool. Well, make sure you guys tune in there and tune in for this show next week. Same time, same place. I'll see you next time, Heather.
See you, Jen. Thanks, everyone.